I'm Christine, and this is my Mindful Meanderings. Basically, it's just a blog of my thoughts and things that have either inspired me or surprised me or maybe brought a little bit of fear into my world, and I'm having to think about things a bit differently than I did before. So today I wanted to share about an experience I had recently, and it's in reality it's an ongoing experience, and I'm sure many people have encountered this in one way or another. It's basically about the introduction of AI. And look, I've been aware of AI for many years, and I've actually been using it for helping with blog writing and certain types of emails, or there's many different things that I've attempted to use AI for. Some of the graphics that you can create now with AI are absolutely phenomenal. So that's one aspect of it, but I guess more recently it's started to affect my work. And I think fundamentally many of us know that AI is coming for our work, essentially. There's AI being used in medical, legal, accounting. There's very few jobs nowadays that don't have an AI element to them. And so if you're not aware of AI or not using it, it might be the undoing of you. Anyway, so it's been really interesting over the years to see how technology has changed in the bookkeeping space. Nowadays we have programs which are so much easier to use than when I first started doing bookkeeping, maybe 20 years ago. So when I first entered the workforce, I was using Dot Matrix and JD Edwards and very old MyOb back in the day, where you had to change the spools out kind of thing and save all your work every single day onto some really big hard drives, and then keep a week's worth of work to make sure that you had a copy of it if anything went wrong and you can look back on it. Nowadays everything's in the cloud, which it makes life so much easier. I don't know if you'd ever have to wind back something. Like back in those days, everybody was always worried about losing their database or it being corrupted in some way. So nowadays, as I say, it's all on the cloud. I don't know that those concerns are even around anymore. But I have concerns when it comes to my OneDrive file and all that sort of jazz, but there's another example of AI just like changing our dynamics and changing our world. Nowadays, if you don't have an internet connection and you're trying to work, good luck. I think that's very challenging. So how this affected me more recently is that within our business, we have an IT guy, and he's a lovely man and he's very savvy and up to date with everything. And several years ago, he set up Zapier, which it's basically a program that collects data from one location. In this case, it is our payment gateway, and it feeds that information into the database and also into our accounting software. So we're using Xero, which is a very common program here in Australia and New Zealand. I think it's fantastic, especially compared to using MYOB way back in the day. Although I understand that MYOB cloud version is actually very good, so I can't discredit it this time. I haven't used it in a long time. But anyway, I'm sure it has the same capacity. So if someone's savvy enough in the IT space, they'll be able to set up Zaps and pull that data through. So when I first started working, one of my jobs was to actually enter all of the invoices manually into our system. Whereas now all of the information is entered by the customer who's purchasing the product, and it gets entered into a portal, and then that portal, once it's been finalized, gets extracted by Zapier and then fed into the customer relationship management software and then into our Xero software. So much so that all I really need to do when I'm reconciling nowadays is check that the receipt in the bank account matches the receipt that's come through Zapier to create the invoice, and as long as the two match, we're good to go. So what used to take me a couple of minutes to process any transaction is now a fraction of seconds. You can just imagine over time how this has helped businesses grow immensely. I mean, it's phenomenal how much more can get done with fewer manpower to enter all the data manually and all that sort of stuff. Whereas now you really just need a really good, savvy, techie person who can figure out how to set up like a Pabbly or a Zapier or something like that, which integrates the data and just makes life so much quicker. I guess the point I'm getting to now is that the volume of transactions hasn't exactly slowed, but because of the effort and energy that's required now for people like myself, I don't need to have the same level of knowledge that I once did, because I'm pretty much just checking that things match and pressing OK. Yes, it does get very boring, and so I do listen to a lot of stuff to try and keep my brain active. As I say, the introduction of AI has meant that the volume of work has really been affected, and so this is a challenge that I'm having to work through at the moment. I was saying to my husband the other day, I have some concerns that the place I'm working with are having to look for work for a bookkeeper to do, because AI is basically starting to affect my workload. And my suggestion was that I think that I really need to expose myself more to learning how to use different software and learning how to do things which maybe push me out of my comfort zone a bit more and are of more value to men and women around the world and businesses. I dare say I'm not the only one who's having these sort of challenges, and I apologise if I'm taking a time to articulate myself. I want to be really mindful and clear in what I'm trying to share. I think with the introduction of being able to work remotely, I don't need to go into an office to work anymore, and I haven't been working in an office since March of 2020, which I'm incredibly grateful for. I love that I can explore my own backyard without the pressures of needing to be in said location. We do a lot of house sitting and we explore the area wherever we are house sitting, and we look after people's animals while they go on holiday, as well as working full-time jobs, because house sitting doesn't pay. What concerned me the most was that I might have to change, or we might have to change the way that we do what we're doing. And I don't want to change the way that we're doing life at the moment, because I genuinely love it. It's so much fun. I look forward to getting up in the morning because I like how we're living. Whereas when I was working full time and having to go into the office every day, I was travelling minimum of 2 hours a day, 1 hour in and 1 hour out on the train. So although I was being paid for 8 hours of work, really and truly I was working for 10 hours, because my brain would switch on for work before I got there, and I would be switched on and trying to get out of it on the way home. So, I mean, really and truly we were working 10 hours, whereas now I get up, I can turn my computer on 10 minutes before I start work, and if I need to, like today, I'm thinking I might go and find a Chinese medicine place because I've hurt my neck. I can go and do that without having to take half a day off of work. Whereas in the past, if I needed to go for an appointment, I was basically having to take half a day's sick leave. Whereas now I don't need to do that. I can come home and I can make up the time if it's necessary. And there's just so many benefits from a lifestyle perspective that I just can't replace. So the idea of me needing to potentially consider changing jobs is it's not really an option in my mind. I just don't want that. And I also don't want to find myself in a position where I'm forced out of a role or a job because I'm not needed anymore. That would feel pretty shitty, to be honest. And I acknowledge that my identity is probably wrapped around my work, because I mean we spend 5 days a week doing work. How can we not identify with it? it becomes a part of who we are. So I certainly don't want to be in a position where I'm forced out of the work that I'm doing, and finding a new work may be challenging because of the integration of AI, or because I have certain requirements now that the new business is not happy to accept. Yeah, I guess I really, really don't want to find myself in a sticky situation. So I think I've laboured on that enough. So what I was speaking with my husband about is that I can start doing these recordings and learn how to use recording tools, recording techniques, as well as different programs such as DaVinci Resolve and so forth. And that will put another string in my bow, as they say, so that if anything were to happen, I can do work for either an individual or a business that doesn't require me to go into an office unless I really wanted to. So I can do these things remotely. I can put myself up on Upwork or Fiverr and support other businesses and potentially do things like video editing, which I think is a really good skill. Additionally, as you probably figured out by now, it's also about opening myself up a bit more, because I don't tend to share my thoughts and feelings. For a long time, I didn't think there was any value in what I shared, and I'm learning to get over that a bit because I do have thoughts and feelings that other people can relate to and other people can get inspiration from, and I hope that I'm bringing value to your world, and I hope that you found this helpful. So if you're in a position today where AI is looking like it may affect where you are, how you work, consider alternative strategies. You're not a tree, you can leave, but don't try to compete with AI, because AI is growing so rapidly. We will never be able to keep up with AI. So what is it that we, men and women, can do to add value to society, to our community, that AI can't do? For example, making coffee. I mean, I know I'm probably sounding really, really basic, but coffee shops and cafes are such a big thing. Now, when I was younger, coffee shops were not a big thing. I can't even remember when coffee shops became all the rage. It was probably when I was in my early to mid 20s. But nowadays, coffee shops are all the rage. And yeah, you can make coffee for a significantly cheaper amount of money, and you can use these fancy machines like Nespresso, for example, and they make fantastic coffees. Now, I'm not going to lie, my husband and I, we enjoy a good coffee, and we'll frequently use our coffee machine at home because it's cheaper and it's quick. But people love coffee shops. Why is that? It's because there's a human element to it. The coffee machine at home, where you stick your pot in and you press the button and you add your milk and sugar and all the rest of it, there's no human connection to that machine outside of pressing the buttons. But we don't get that feel-good connection when we have that experience. I mean, you're obviously going to have all your hormonal things that still trigger when you drink your coffee, and you can have some amazing experiences sitting by yourself and meditating while you're having your coffee, or having a conversation with a friend or a family member at home, and those moments can be really special. But I think what I'm trying to get at here is the reason why coffee shops have become so popular is because it brings people together. People need people for human connection, and even if that human connection is somebody greeting you at the counter, wishing you a good day, asking you how you are, taking your order, and then moving on, there's something about that. So if we can change our perspective, rather than competing with AI in our area of expertise, look for ways in which we can do what humans do best. And my example in this instance is creating a community, or connecting with people, or customer service, or being a salesperson. AI is going to interfere with some of those things a bit, because obviously we've seen the introduction of chatbots, and that take a lot of the legwork out of things in the customer support space or in the sales space. But essentially we are still going to need customer support people. We are still going to need salespeople. That's just one example, but what can we do that, I mean, I'm not saying AI is going to take over every job, but AI can certainly help people do jobs better. So what can we do to work with AI in a way that's working smarter, not harder, rather than fighting against it. And what can we do that AI cannot do? So there's a couple of ideas for you. Hopefully you found this helpful and I didn't ramble too much. It's amazing how quickly the time flies. If you liked what I shared today, please like, share, subscribe. It really helps to grow the channel. And yeah, I look forward to sharing some new thoughts with you in the coming episode. Bye for now.